Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk to you about an exciting feature of Azure Virtual Desktop that can save you an absolute fortune on your Azure bill and massively improve the end user experience for your users. It's something called Hibernation Mode. In this video I'm going to explain what Hibernation Mode is, how it works, and show you what the actual end user experience is like. So let's cover off what is Hibernation Mode and how it can help you. Hibernation Mode is a feature of Azure that allows your Azure virtual machines to go into a hibernated state when a user disconnects from the AVD session, or if auto-scaling puts the VM into a hibernated state. This can massively help you save on your Azure costs, as you're not charged for the compute resources when the VM is in a hibernated state. So, what's actually happening under the hood? So when a user disconnects from the AVD session, or if the session is disconnected or logged off due to the session timeout settings, the hibernation process is actually triggered and the VM is then moved into a hibernated state. Under the hood, Azure is signaling a suspended disk action, which then kicks off a process in which the contents of the memory is written onto the Azure VM's OS disk. Okay. When the user reconnects to the AVD desktop, applications and documents previously opening in the session are resumed to whatever state they were in previously, to what Hibernation Mode kicked in, and as the contents of the VM's memory are written back from disk to memory of the actual session itself. So, what are actually the benefits of Hibernation Mode? The primary benefit of using Hibernation Mode is cost saving, but it also massively improves the end user experience. By hibernating Azure VMs, you can significantly reduce the cost of running your Azure Virtual Desktop infrastructure and compute costs. Historically, users have been forced to log off their AVD session hosts when their sessions become idle, meaning that they have to relaunch or reopen whatever documents they have previously working on prior to their sessions being logged off. When we're using Hibernation Mode, or when Hibernation Mode is enabled, they can resume where they left off prior to being logged off, as whatever applications or documents they had open prior to them going to a hibernated state will be there as the contents of the memory have been written back to the disk. Okay, so launching a desktop is also much quicker, especially when coupled with Start VM or Connect with Hibernation Mode enabled, because the VM doesn't have to go through the full boot process. It just resumes where the session left off. So this can be anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes instead of like the full 3 to 5 minutes that we normally get from a clean boot process. Alright, so that's enough theory. Let's have a look and see what this actually looks like and see what the actual end user experience is, and then have a look what's actually happening within the Azure portal when the VM goes into a hibernated state. So now let's take a look and see how we actually enable Hibernation Mode. So I'm doing this one with inside the Nerdio console. We need to enable Hibernation Mode at two places. So first of all, we need to enable it at the actual image itself, and then we also need to enable it at the host pool level. Okay, so first of all, let's see what we need to do for the image. So if I click Add from Azure Library, I need to actually publish the image to the Azure Compute Gallery. Okay, so you can see here I've got nowhere where I can enable Hibernation Mode. As soon as I click the enable geographic distribution, I now get this hibernation supported thing. Okay, so all I have to do is to click on that, and then as you can see, what that will do, this enables Hibernation Mode on the actual VM itself when it's published into the Azure Compute Gallery. Now that we've enabled Hibernation Mode in the image, we need to enable Hibernation Mode on the host pool. Okay, so let's see how we do that. So let's go to the host pool. So I'm going to, here's a Hibernate test host pool. You can guess what that was for. So to enable it within the Nerdio console, I just need to go to properties, and then I go to VM deployment, and then I have a tick box which says there, enable Hibernation Mode. Okay, so when I tick that, what that means is every time a new session host is created within that host pool, it actually installs a VM extension onto the actual virtual machine, which then enables it to be used for Hibernation Mode. So we can actually have a look at that. So if I click on an existing VM that I've got here, okay, so if I go and select this virtual machine here, what I should be able to see is that you'll actually have a VM extension installed on it. Okay, so let's see if we can actually see that. So if I go to the Azure portal, go to extensions and applications, and then we can see there we've got this Azure Hibernate extension. Okay, so that tells me that that VM is now enabled for Hibernation Mode. and we can test that later. So to the Hibernation test host pool, I've got hibtest as my host, and my current session status is active, okay, and I'm on the session desktop. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go over to the desktop, okay, and this is the very important document which I have open, okay. So you can see here the host name is hibtest. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go into a disconnected state, right? So what would usually happen at this point in time is if I'm in a disconnected state, we normally have a policy which would then log off that VM and then shut that VM down. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into a disconnect. Okay. So go to disconnect. And then what will happen then is hopefully the machine will then go into a hibernated state. So let's head over to the Azure portal and actually see what's happening. So this is my current machine running. Okay, so now if we click on the refresh, any second now, we should start to see it go into a hibernated state. So the VM is now going into a deallocating state. Okay, so the contents of the memory are now being written to the disk. So what we can now see is the VM status is set to hibernated, deallocated state. Okay, so this will stay there forever until we reconnect back to the VM. But the important thing is we're not being charged for that VM right now. Okay, so let's see what the status is showing me within the Nerdio console. So if I go into Nerdio, I can see the VM is now in a hibernated state. Maybe not. Click on the refresh, so you can see there it's showing in as hibernated, deallocated state. Okay, right, so now let's see what the user experience is like when we reconnect to that VM. So I'm going to go to my client, my Windows app. So here's the VM. So I'm going to click on the connect button, and that's going to go into connecting. Now if I go back over to the Azure Virtual Desktop portal, what I should then see is that VM start to come back again. So give it a second. So now it should be sending a power on command to the virtual machine. So we go back to the Azure portal. I can see that's in a starting status. We can now see the VM starting. So what's happening right now is the memory is being written from the disk back into the actual VM memory itself. Okay. So the VM is now running. So let's now go back to our session and see if it's there. So that says starting, and there we are. So we've resumed the session. This is still my very important document open. So that's essentially how all this stuff works. Okay, so now I'm going to put it back into a hibernated state. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week for another video. Thank you. Goodbye.